Hi, and welcome to webcast 6 of Ask Maggie. I'm Maggie Fuller, of course, and as I had mentioned earlier, on the Ask Maggie website, we're going to be talking about the loss of a pet. I have noticed on Facebook that a lot of people have lost pets due to sickness or age, and you may get some benefit from this. I recently did have to put my own dog of 17 years to sleep. There's a picture of her, cute little border collie, and was a big part of my life. And that's, I think, why it's so important to do this is because pets really are a big part of our lives. And when we look at our relationships with pets, first of all, remember, this isn't really therapy. This is just educational, entertainment, to help people, give them a little guidance on things, but I do have to put that disclaimer in there. But we look at our relationships with pets, and they have a lot of the same characteristics that we have between parents and children when you think about it. We shelter them, we feed them, we provide medical care, affection, protection, and they have the mental capacity sometimes of a toddler, and then other times they're much like teenagers. They're dependent, they're compassionate, comical, they have imagination. Now, anybody who's ever seen a cat play with absolutely nothing or a shadow on the walls knows what I mean by imagination. And we have expectations that are pretty low for them, and a lot of times we even envy their lives. I mean, how many times have you said, boy, I wish I were you? All they have to do is lay around the house, get fed, and maybe bark at the mailman once in a while. That's big excitement. Their lives have values because we chose them, or maybe they've selected us. But one of the hardest parts about having an animal, and this is very hard for me to talk about, is protection. We protect them from pain, disability, aging, and then there's the unspeakable of when we have to euthanize them, and we really can't protect them from death. We end up causing their death through a decision, and that's what makes it so hard. Pets share your life events. They share your history. Sometimes they've watched your kids grow up. Some people even think that they have pets that have helped them raise their kids. When my children were little, we had a dog that used to keep them all corralled and keep an eye on them for us. They offer unconditional love and affection, and even animals that we don't know that well, we feel compassion for them when we see them suffer in some ways. And it's even harder because they can't speak in their language and tell us what they want us to do or what hurts, or maybe that they wish that their suffering was over. So we all know that when we take a pet, that they have a relatively short lifespan. Sometimes I think of this as a gift because we get to practice getting through grief safely for bigger events when we lose humans in our lives who have much longer lifespans. We know when we take on a pet that we're going to have to put them down, or that their lifespan is going to be short, and we're going to have to learn to deal with that. Dogs, especially large ones, very short lifespans, sometimes 8 to 10 years. Cats and dogs, smaller ones. The smaller the animal, usually the longer they live. Sometimes they live 20 to 21 years. My next door neighbor recently lost a cat that was 21 years old. But let's talk about healing after the loss of a pet. And why does it hurt so much? Well, you have to remember that this is a part of your routine. Every day, you might be greeted at the door. The feeding, the watering, it's just a daily part of your life, and all of a sudden, that is gone. And they do offer so much to your life, and you are going to miss some of that. And then there's the guilt, and a part of that is because you are the pet parent, and we feel that we could have prevented this. Now, guilt is a belief that we've done something wrong and that we should suffer because we've done something wrong. But if we've provided the best care and the fullest possible life for our animal, why should we be punished? Seriously. The human mind is primed for cause and effect. Now, that means when this happens, when we do this, something else will happen as a result. You make a good choice, you have a good result. You make a bad choice, you have a bad result. But We want to believe we have control over things in our lives, and that's why we have this cause and effect. Maybe we pray that our pet will get better or it'll live longer. We may spend money we can't afford to spend at the vet. We pump them full of vitamins. We try all kinds of alternative treatments. We think that there's something we can do to prolong their life as long as possible, but it is inevitable that our pets are not going to live as long as we do. Now, if a pet dies in an accident, and I know a few people who have been through this, we think to ourselves, what if I had closed the gate? What if I had watched him or her more carefully? That is the cause and effect. But what if thinking is pretty much a foundation of emotional trouble, because we can't control every event that comes along. Now, when we have a pet that's sick or aged, and we're talking about what if thinking, it's always natural to go, what if? And then we expect the worst. What if, though, we were to think in a more positive sense? What if your pet is truly grateful that the suffering is over? Now, euthanization, I think, is very, very hard for people. We wonder what our pet is thinking when we take them for the procedure. And honestly, we don't know what they're thinking. What we do know is that sometimes as adults, we have to make adult, compassionate decisions out of love. And that's what being an adult is all about, and being a responsible pet owner. But what do we know about euthanization? I've talked with a lot of vets about this. I've done a lot of reading on it before I made my own decision. And with the exception of that initial shot that they get, okay, it's pretty much peaceful and pain-free. Your pet will relax. It will drift off to sleep, and they really don't know that their heart's going to stop, and they don't know that they're not going to be living in their body anymore. It's just a very peaceful thing. But they do know that you're sad, and they do sense that. Your dog or cat is very in touch with your emotions. Now, all living things have the will to live and to try to stay alive as long as possible. It's just natural. It's a strong will to live, and they even fear things. My dog, up until the last week or so, was still shaking when she heard thunderstorms because she thought they were a threat to her life. And they will try to live. And there's things like hunger, predators, thunder, lightning, vacuum sweepers, mailman, squirrels, anything that frightens them, they try to prolong their life. But this is a natural process. When human beings interfere with nature, when we domesticate animals, we take them in, we start caring for them, we automatically interrupt the natural process. And when we step in to interfere with starvation, or when they're too old or sick to seek food or protect themselves, we have to keep in mind what we have done. In nature, animals will go off alone. There is a natural instinct. They go off alone. It's called denning, and they will find a peaceful place where nothing will bother them, and then they die in peace. And then there's that story about elephants going to a tar pit when they know they have to die. It's instinct. And we can try to let nature take its course. There are some people who are fortunate enough to have an animal pass on peacefully. That is more of an exception than the rule. And when you choose to use inaction with a domesticated animal, it does not necessarily mean an easier, comfortable death. It is very hard to euthanize a pet, but you have to remember that it's not loving to let them die slowly when they cannot breathe properly, they can't eat, they can't drink, they're laying in their own waste, they can't move without pain. It's not necessarily the nicest thing, and your pet probably wouldn't want that for themselves. When we mess with nature by domesticating a pet, we also assume the responsibility of helping nature and avoid unnecessary suffering. So what do you have to expect when you lose a pet? Well, there's pre-loss. You can expect grieving, and grieving is a sign that you are a compassionate, caring person. That is actually a good thing. Maybe it doesn't feel so good at the moment, but it is a good thing. If you had no compassion for other living things, it wouldn't be a good sign. Let's just say that. But let's start with pre-loss. You're anticipating the death or euthanization of your pet. and you know this is coming, you're expecting it to be hard, you wonder what your pet is thinking, you know if it's the right time, you want to give them every possible day that they can have. And the anticipation is sometimes worse than the actual event because it's only a creation in your imagination. In reality, your pet is in pain, it's disabled, but it's still here. And it's still able to soak up love. You can give it all the love and attention instead of anticipating what you're going to be going through. You can't really begin to heal or recover from emotional pain until the event has occurred. Now, some of you have heard about the author Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who has the 5 stages of grieving, and we will cover those. There's a couple other people who have stages of grieving, but Elizabeth Kubler-Ross is probably the best known, and it's important to know that when you are talking about the steps of grieving, that they don't always happen in order, and you can bounce back and forth between all the different steps. First one is denial. That's where you discover maybe your pet has cancer or has been in an accident, and you think to yourself, this isn't really happening. I think we all know what denial is. Then there's anger. You're very upset that this has happened. Maybe you want to blame somebody for this happening. There's bargaining, where you might even try praying to God and say, you know, I promise I will go to church every day if you can just heal my pet. Depression. Depression is basically when you have given up hope and you're getting to the point where you're accepting that your pet is not going to live. And finally, there is acceptance, and that is the stage where you have come to the conclusion that your pet is gone and you are going to have to deal with living through not having your pet around anymore. Now, grief is actually an expression of love and compassion and a reflection of your capacity to add to the lives of others, whether it be human beings or animals. So what do we do now that we have to recover? Well, first of all, acknowledge yourself and that you have given your pet a great life. And if you think about it, there are a lot of pets that really don't have great lives. There's healthy young animals that are being put to sleep and euthanized in shelters every day, animals that are suffering out there, and your animal had a really good life. So give yourself a little thumbs up for that. Be kind to yourself during the recovery process. Cry if you need to. Rest. Enjoy a little comfort food. Hug your pet or another family member. Take the day off of work if you can. And you have to know that sadness is not a part, it's only a part of your life. It isn't your whole life. So go out, do something you enjoy, distract yourself. Talk to other people who have lost pets. Oddly enough, my dog had a best friend on the other side of the fence named Misty. They were both about the same age, and when I put my dog down, I went over and I told the owners that we had put her down, and they started crying because they had just put Misty down too. And it was really very therapeutic for both of us to talk about the whole process and how much it hurt. Also, take the time to put your pet's belongings in a box. You're not ready to deal with what you want to keep and what you don't want to keep, or maybe you can donate it to a shelter or something like that. So just put it in a box until you're ready to deal with it. And remember that your pet's final moments can bring some very unpleasant recurring flashbacks, remembering about that moment in the vet's office when they give the shot and what transpired. So try to visualize a scenario where your pet is happy afterward, it's pain-free, maybe running through the clouds, meeting other happy little pets, and try to be detailed in your imagination about what type of good things are happening, who's there, and what is your pet doing? Are there pet toys? Are there pet treats? If you don't believe in an afterlife, try to remember times when your pet was happy on earth and healthy. Explain to others briefly if you have to go to work. If you can get a day off, that's always wonderful, but a lot of employers don't understand grieving the loss of a pet. Do explain to people around you that you're a little out of sorts because of this, so they don't think you're being offish or ignoring them. Don't expect others to know what to say when you tell them that you've just lost a pet. I mean, even if somebody who loses a human family member it's always very awkward for people to know just the right thing to say, because there really isn't a right thing to say. They're just sad, and sometimes just sitting with them and or giving them a hug is plenty. Now, don't expect others to know what to say, and also just ignore people who say, get over it, or it's just a dog. You know, I certainly have my opinion about people like that. Remember that you don't deserve to suffer because you did the best you could for your dog or cat. Guilt is a belief that we've done something wrong and that we should suffer, but you can change that belief because you did the best you could for your pet. Your pet knows that you loved them and you took good care of them for many years, and they would want you to go on and be happy and pain-free too, and I mean emotionally pain-free. So what do you do with the body of your pet after you've done the deed or after they've passed away? That's a very personal choice. Some vets offer the opportunity for burial, other ones cremation. It can be a community cremation, or you can get your own animal's ashes back. My own personal choice is that my pet was the spirit, it wasn't the shell, and that I would rather, it was very expensive to get the ashes back. I would rather use that money for something helpful, like donating it to a shelter or getting another animal out of a shelter. And you're not really even sure if you're getting your pet's ashes back. So that was my decision. My next door neighbor who had their dog put down, they're going to get the ashes and sprinkle them around a tree that their daughter had planted many years ago. You can sprinkle the ashes. Some people even go to a taxidermist. I don't know about that. Oh, by the way, I wanted to show you. Tickle Me Freud. Yeah, Sigmund Freud. All right. So it is an individual choice what you want to do with the body, and should you get another pet? Well, here's what I suggest. If you feel that you are good and ready to get another pet, go get another pet. Some people choose to enjoy the non-responsibility of having an animal. They can travel, not worry about letting the dog in and out when they're at work, or other people really do want to get another pet. But when do you do it? As soon as you're ready. It isn't a replacement of your animal, so don't feel like you're replacing them. Think of it as a sibling. And every new animal has a different personality. It's going to bring new experiences, new memories. I think that's a really good thing. Wait until you're emotionally healthy enough to bring the animal into the house, because think about your own self. If you were suddenly uprooted from wherever you were and put into a new house, you would want your person to be there to help you adjust, because it's scary. So make sure you're ready. I'm going to post a grief hotline number for you for people who are grieving the loss of a pet. And thanks again for watching the webcast. I hope it wasn't too painful. I want you to remember to send your thoughts or questions to askmaggie@hotmail.com. And I will do my very best to get back to you and answer them. But thank you for watching Webcast 6.